Hello everyone, next clan on the list, Narashima. So let's talk about Narashima. What is Narashima about? Uh, Narashima has a few features that it tries to put in place. The first one is it will help you fill up your discard pile, which can be helpful for secret shifts, which can be helpful with tomorrow to try to find the right cards and put Neye in your discard. So that's one of the axes it goes through. The second one is opponent hand aggression. There's a few cards that forces your opponent to discard cards, and that's not a feature that you find in a lot of clans. So that's worthy to note. And last point is you have some strong card draw, namely one card that gives you some strong card draw and is really a pivotal point in the Narashima clan. So let's take a look at the cards individually. First one we have is Nakshatra. So Nakshatra, what does it do? You put the top 2 cards and up to top 4 cards of your deck in your discard pile, and then you can grab any level 1 from your, not necessarily one of the level 1s you just revealed, but any level 1 that is already in your discard pile in your hand. And if you have the Grand Battle token, you can even take a level 2 or level 3. So this card really gets a lot stronger once you've won a great battle. There's a very big difference between just being able to take a level 1 and being to take any card from your discard pile. The fact that you're putting more and more cards in your discard pile with the token is nice to have, but it's not really this card strength. So this card is nice. It's easy to play early. So sometimes you're unlucky and the 2 cards you reveal, there's no level 1 in it, and you won't be able to draw back the card that you just used. But if you're opening a second color, it's pretty easy to discard at least 1 level 1 and make sure that you will have at least 1 target for this card. So very useful card, and very useful card to get back the level 1s that you really need. And you can also activate it with a token to get back the level 1 cards that you need. If you need card draw, and we'll see you have Nikilesh is often a strong target to get back. Or if you're playing, I don't know, Narashima with the Goansul, for example, in that case, getting the level 1 aggression cards that you need to disrupt your opponent. So very nice card overall that you like to see early in your hand. Navage. So Navage is a special one. Navage is probably a card you do not want in your opener because you need to have some specific cards in your discard pile for it to really work. In Narashima, the only card it has a bit of synergy with is Nalin. So Navage can get you your Nalin back if it's in your discard pile. Knowing that Nalin is probably one of the cards that enables Navage. So depending on in what order you get these two, it's not always perfect. Navage is also can be strong when you're playing Narashima plus Justice or Narashima plus Abhilasha, because Navage can get you your Force of Will back and basically can be a draw 2 from your discard, which is pretty strong. And like I said when we were presenting the Galmi cards, Navage is very strong with when you have Narashima plus Galmi in terms of combination, because in that case you can almost get any 2 Galmi cards. Well, you can get any 2 Galmi cards from your discard playing Navage. So a bit more situational depending on what clans you're playing, and sometimes depending on the combination of clans you're playing, it can be almost a dead card. So with only Nalin as a target in all the cards you have. So a little weaker, but when it is good, it often is really good. So that to keep in mind. Nikilesh. Nikilesh is probably one of the best level 1 cards in the game because it's draw 1 for each different clan in your discard pile, and it's even reactivatable with a token, and it's very easy to get all 3 clans in your discard pile and have it become a draw 3. It's pretty consistent to be able to do that, and that's why this card is very strong. That's why this card is also a bounty card, meaning that it will often be a strong target for your opponents, and if your opponents have anything to capture, to destroy, Nikilesh will probably be the first one to go because it's so strong. But just playing it, and even if you've played another clan, you're opening with Nikilesh, it almost buys back the 2 cards you have to put Nikilesh in play directly, because depending on if you're able to discard 2 different clan types, then you're already at least drawing 2, and it's pretty easy to draw 3. So very, very strong card, and one of the key Narashima cards, because you'll like to get that back, whether with a Nakshatra, even sometimes with an Itianda, to be able to draw 3 and get your hand back going and working like that. Last level 1, Nitish. So Nitish is a situational card. It's probably not considered as a very strong card when it actually can be. 2 things to note on Nitish. The first one is that it only has 1 as a shift cost card, shift cost, meaning that if you're playing, I don't know, first turn you play a Nakshatra, second turn you play a Nitish, even if you don't have any bounty to discard, then if you want to open up with another clan, instead of paying 2 cards and putting that other clans to the right, you can shift Nitish for only 1 card. So sometimes when you're a bit strangled in terms of number of cards, you can maybe open a new card, a new clan using Nitish and the 1 in terms of shift cost. So that's one thing to think about. But even the discarding a bounty to capture, destroy, or release can be very strong, knowing that it's capture, destroy, or release. So all 3 can help, because destroy is only open cards, so you don't always have the right target you want. Capture, you can capture anything, and that's very strong. Only if Rook is as passive, it's, I would say, not as strong. And even release can be a very good help. So you have to pay a bounty card, but when in hand at the beginning of the game, you have a Byunja, which you probably will not activate yet, and you have 3 in your deck. Playing Nitish, discarding a Byunja to maybe destroy a level 3 cards on the opponent's side is very strong. It's the only level 1 card that can destroy level 3 cards. And same thing, playing a Nitish and discarding a Byunja to uncapture one of your level 3s can also be very strong. So it's a lot better than it looks. Situational, but it can be very strong, and when you have it in hand, really think about the things that you can do with it, because you'll be surprised on how it can help you sometimes. So those were all the level 1s. It's not like Galmi, where all the level 1s are, I would say, easy to play. Here you have Nakshatra and Nikilesh, which are pretty easy to play and that you like to play pretty early on. You have Navaj, which you probably want to play later on, and you have Nitish, which is a little more situational. You might want to play it early just for its shift cost, or you might want to wait a little because you might want to destroy something or release something, coupling it with a bounty card. Next up, level 2s. So first level 2 is Nashikita. So Nashikita is a very strong card. It has been changed since the release of the game. Before, it was only each player discards 2 cards from their hand, which could be strong. And now that you also have the option to not discard the cards on your side and take corruption token, this card really becomes strong. And it can even be, I would say, a finisher. If your opponent doesn't have any tokens left and only has 2 cards in hand, you just play Nashikita and he might be forced to pass and giving you 3 extra turns to finish the round, maybe overpower him in military and then win the game, or at least win a round this way. This has been a little nerfed with the appearance of Umbra, where if you do that and your opponent has any Umbra cards in play, he might not have to pass and might be able to get back going. I'm talking mostly about Yume, I'm talking about Phoenix and some Ruknarl cards. But Nashikita can really be a finisher, and that's very strong. And we'll talk about it later, but Nashikita plus Abhilasha. So if you have Nashikita in your discard pile, being able to play Nashikita at any time when your opponent drops down to 2 card can be very strong. So very strong card. And now that you can take a corruption to avoid discarding, even stronger. Nalin. So Nalin has Wondrous, and sometimes you'll want to play Nalin just for the Wondrous token. And especially if you're playing against Galmi and the opponent has the Wondrous token, you might want to play Nalin, get the Wondrous token to avoid having your opponent spare a free card for opening a new color or shifting. So taking the Wondrous back from him can be sometimes useful. The rest is the power of your choice places the 10 cards, first cards from his deck in his discard. So this is very good to work towards your Byujunja, because you're putting a lot of cards in from your, basically you're moving very quickly in your library. This can also be strong with other clans. I've talked about it with tomorrow to try to find Neye and Ease. With Abhilasha. Abhilasha, you want a lot of cards in your discard to be able to do some secret shifts and basically build yourself a toolkit with your discard to bring back the cards that you need when you need them. And there are some possibilities where you can play Nalin on your opponent. Typically when he's trying to place a shadow step. So if he used a rehab to manipulate his library to have the right card on top, with Nalin, you can force him to discard that card. If he's trying to set up Ruknarl Byujunja with Nalin, you can prevent that. So there can be a few times where aiming for the opponent can also be a good idea, but most of the time you'll be aiming yourself with that. Put the 10 top cards of your deck in the library. Narashima level 2, so Narashima Lion. Each player discards half of the cards in their hand, rounded up. So this one is I would say probably the hardest Narashima card to play out correctly. Just playing it is not hard, but playing it correctly is. So first of all, the rounded up is very important. So if you have 3 cards in hand and you're playing Narashima, you'll finish with 2 cards in hand, so you'll only discard 1. And if your opponent has 5 cards in hand, he'll have to discard 3. So basically, that's how you can, I would say, abuse the imbalance of this card. Is if your opponent has doesn't have an even number of cards in hand, then this one will hurt him more. And if you're playing it and making sure you have an even number of cards in hand, that's when it's probably useful. Another I would say card it works well with is Neza. Whether it's Neza has been exiled and the Akasha is in play, or whether you're playing Narashima plus Justice and you have Neza in play. Because if Narashima is your last card, you can play Narashima, force your opponent to discard cards, and at the end of your turn, you'll draw back 2 cards with Neza. Same thing with Nashiketa, by the way. It's also works very well with the Neza. If you and your opponent both have 2 cards left, you use Nashiketa, you don't take the corruption token, you discard maybe the last card you had in hand, and with the Neza you'll be able to draw 2 more, and your opponent will be forced to either use tokens or forced to pass because of these 2 cards. So with Neza, these 2 cards are even stronger, I would say. Next up is Niranjan. So Niranjan forces the opponent to sacrifice one of their open cards. So your opponent chooses the cards he sacrifices. So this card needs to be played at the right moment. If he has a level 2 card that isn't really useful anymore, having him sacrifice it might not be a good idea, because he'll be able to play another level 2 card instead, and the level 2 cards. So it's not always a good idea to play it. Be careful and be wary when you're playing this card. But when it's the strongest is, I would say, at the beginning of the game, when your opponent is playing 1 or 2 level 1s, then wants to switch to a different clan and pays 2 cards and opens up with a new clan. In that case, you play Niranjan, and the only card that he can sacrifice, if he hasn't played any level 2, will be the last level 1 he played, and in that case, you're really blocking his development, and that's pretty strong. It's also pretty good, I would say, in the end game, when if you're in a race with your opponent to finish off with the 15 cards in play, Niranjan can sometimes be the only card that prevents your opponent to go to 15, and that can be helpful. Nityananda. So Nityananda, one of the strongest level 2 cards in the game. Nityananda, so what does it do? You take an extra turn after this one, and during this additional turn, you may play a card from your discard pile instead of a card from your hand. So that's very strong, especially, basically it combines well with Narashima. With Narashima, you're going to put a lot of cards in your discard pile, and playing this card will, any very strong cards that you put in your discard that you need now, with Nityananda, you'll be able to get it back. It's also a strong tempo move, because you're going to play this card as a level 2 plus the additional card, and it can even be a level 3 directly into play. So in one turn, you're playing a level 2 plus a level 3. That can be very strong, knowing that you're not just putting the other card in play, you're playing the other card. So if it's a very strong level 3, like Narashima, like Xian, like Bilasha, you're also getting the effect of that card. So the additional turn you're getting is very, very strong. And this is why this card has a 4 in terms of shift cost, is because it's a very strong card. And um, the designers did not want you to abuse it, being able to play it, quickly shifting it out, and then getting it back into your hand and replaying it very quickly. There are ways to do that, but the 4 shift cost kind of prevents you to do that too easily. But very, very strong card. Careful, because when you have that in play and you're playing against Xian, for example, he can abuse that on his side. Typically, if you're in a race for the 15 cards and he has still 2 slots to open, if he plays a Nalin and copies your Nityananda and then plays his last level 3 and finishes off this way, it can be a surprise for you. So careful. Once you play it, know that it can be available for Xian. If you have Xian, good for you. If you're playing against Xian, keep that in mind, because it's such a strong card that it can tip the balance pretty easily. One last thing to say about this card is sometimes you can kind of get tricked because you need to remember that you gain an extra turn playing this card. So doing Nityananda to putting Phoenix in play, Phoenix level 3 in play, might not be a very strong idea, because you'll already gained an extra turn with Nityananda. So you'll play the Phoenix, you'll draw 1 card, but you won't get the extra turn, another extra turn behind it. In GosuX, you can never play more than 2 turns in a row. So keeping that in mind. And another, I would say, tricky situation that actually happens a little more often than you would think is playing Nityananda with Neza passive in play, whether you played Neza or whether Neza has been exiled. And if you have no more cards in your library, because you've played an Aline, you've played a Narashima, that already puts 20 cards in your discard pile. So basically, if you don't have any cards in your library, if you play Nityananda and it's the last card in hand, at the end of the turn, you will draw 2, meaning that you will reshuffle your discard in your library, and you won't. So your discard will be empty, and you won't be able to use Nityananda on your discard. And that's something that has happened to me. Has happened to my opponents as well, because with Narashima, you can often have an empty library, and in that case, careful if Neza's passive is around and Nityananda is your last card in hand. Finally, the level 3s. So level 3, we have Narashima. Narashima is a very strong card. It's easy to play. It's basically always good. You put the top 10 cards of your deck into your discard, and then you can take any card from your discard in your hand. So same thing as Nakshatra. It's not one of the 10 cards you revealed and put in your discard that you can choose from. It's any card in your discard. So that's very strong. Basically, you're putting 10 cards, and if you already had 15 cards in your discard, you're choosing any 1 card of those 25 to put back in your hand, and that can be very strong. Other thing it does is it affects the player's maximum hand size, so both players, and you're going from 7 to 5. And that can be useful if the opponent is starting to play with corruption, because when you're at 7 cards, taking a corruption token or even taking a second one going down to 6 or to 5 is pretty bearable. You can play with 6 cards instead of 7. The difference isn't too great. But if your hand size is now 5 instead of 7, playing with only 4 or 3 cards in hand starts to make a very big difference. So Narashima plus some corruption on the other side can be something that you can be looking for. Careful, because with the Nashiketa, the corruption side, the corruption token can be on your side, and being at 4 is already starting to be a bit harder to play than being at 6. So sometimes Narashima can hurt you a bit on that side. Narashima can also be a good to play with a Grubnose, where you won't be affected by his passive, while your opponent will be. And one last thing on the passive of Narashima is if you're playing against Abu Nakashi and he plays Corrupted Sati. So he will be, if you don't corrupt yourself, he will be drawing 4 cards, and then you'll be turning over one of your tiles. If you have Narashima, if you're playing the Narashima deck, often turning over the Narashima, I don't know, he would be at 1 or 2 cards, he draws 4, he's at 6, you turn over the tile and you're already forcing him to discard some of the cards he just drew. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Also, Narashima, we'll talk about it, but Abhilasha typically doesn't require as many cards in hand to play because of the secret shift mechanic. So playing Narashima when you also have Abhilasha in your composition, often the going from 7 to 5 will hurt you less than it will hurt your opponent. Last card, the Byuyunja. So the Byuyunja is when you shuffle all the cards in your discard pile into your deck, you unlock a token. So the case where this happens the most is you've emptied your whole library, you draw 1 more card, and so you shuffle your discard back into your library. And that's actually pretty easy to do with cards like Nalin, with cards like Narashima, with even putting an extra token on Nalin, and then using a Nikilesh to draw and cycle your discard in your library. So this token is not too hard to do. The opponent will easily see it coming, so he might try to disrupt that. But it's a token that's not too hard to do, and that you can even do multiple times, I would say, in a single round. So that's one thing to keep in mind. There's also a few cards that, well, actually one card that combines, that can combine with that, and that's not always obvious, is Genius. Because Genius says each player chooses a clan and shuffles all the card from this clan in their discard pile into their deck. Then you draw 2. If you're using Genius, or if the opponent is using Genius, and you only have 1 clan type in your discard pile, this will trigger this Byuyunja, because it's when you shuffle all the cards in your discard pile into your deck, you unlock. It doesn't mean that your library has to be empty to unlock. So if you only have, I don't know, 3 Abhilasha cards in your discard pile, if someone plays Genius, whether it's you or the opponent, you take all 3 Abhilasha cards, you put them back into your library, and basically you've put all your discard pile back into your deck, so you do unlock the token. So that's a pretty fun interaction that's not always seen when you start playing the game, and maybe you can easily gain a second token, like you just cycled your library, you managed to discard 1 or 2 cards of the same clan, and then you play Genius, and boom, you get a second token, and 1 left to go, and you finish the game. So that's about it for all the Narashima cards. Quickly, what are the, I would say, clans Narashima works well with? So the first one is pretty obvious, is Abhilasha. Abhilasha wants to have a lot of cards in its discard pile, so playing that with Narashima is often pretty strong. Second one is Tomorrow, because you'll be able to put a lot of cards in your discard. Hopefully you're going to be able to put Neye in your discard, which is one of the strong mechanics of Tomorrow. And even if you put Ease and the Byunja in your discard pile, with the grave robbers, you'll be able to get them back, and then you'll be able to do your combo, exile Neye, and then play the Byunja to get the token. So Narashima plus Tomorrow is a pretty good combination to work for tokens, for example. Narashima, as we said, also works pretty nicely with Neza. So whether Justice has been banned, or if you play Narashima plus Justice. And last one, but I find it a lot harder to play, is with a Rook. If you're trying to corrupt your opponent a lot with Riyadh, for example, then having Narashima put on top, let's say with the Rook, it's the Narashima passive that you're looking for. So maybe not playing Narashima, but maybe leaving Narashima as one of the two last clans can be a good setup with playing Rook. Knowing that Narashima is considered to be a pretty strong clan, so it might not always be left open and left as one of the two unpicked clans. But if if the draft goes this way, it's one thing to think about. And well, that's about it for Narashima. Tell me if you like these kinds of formats, and I might move on to a next clan. Thank you, guys.